College football playoff begins tomorrow with Notre Dame and Indiana. Yesterday, we talked about which coach is under the most pressure. We agreed on Ryan Day. We agreed on James Franklin, but we also agreed that some of these little guys as programs have to have some pressure because they're fighting for all the little guys behind them. Maybe not for Indiana next year, but for, the next Indiana behind them, because if those guys go out there and get boat race, there will be significant changes to this format. So they're fighting for this entirety of the college football playoff moving forward. So you're right on that. But which quarterback of these programs playing in the first round has the most pressure heading into this weekend?
I think, pressure is a weird thing because you can interpret it so many different ways. If you're talking about draft status, that's one way to look at it. I would argue Quinn Ewers has the most pressure in that aspect. I know who offered him the $4 million for
to transfer.
Yeah.
I know there were a lot of murmurs about North Carolina.
Okay, so somebody offered him a considerable amount of money. I think that would be incredibly dumb. I think he needs to. His draft value is not going to get any higher. Not that it's incredibly high right now.
You go to North Carolina in the ACC and light it up.
I mean, he's JT Daniels 2.0, and bookmark this.
He could be Bo Nix.
Dude.
There's a lot of guys that have played a fifth year and had a lot of success. Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow.
I think it's either Quinn Ewers or Howard of Ohio State, and Howard mainly because that guy has 15 of the best receivers in the league, and they can't throw the ball, they can't run the ball, they can't do a damn thing. His head coach is clearly on the hot seat. In terms of pressure putting on yourself, probably Howard, but I think Quinn Ewers is right there with him because it is Texas. But also, if Ewers wants to go to the league, he better have a good showing this week. First of all, this week against Clemson, number one. If you can't beat up on this Clemson team, then I don't know what you're going to do. But I think Quinn Ewers and Howard are two pretty good ones.
Yeah, I think Ohio State and Texas both expect to advance. So I think both of their fan bases, there's going to be a lot of backlash for the quarterback if either one of those teams doesn't advance. So I think both of them are facing that. I'll get to a little bit more about Ohio State. I'm right there with my initial thought was Ewers. I thought Ewers from a draft perspective. I think Ewers has looked very bad. I think Ewers from even if he wants to stay another year to build up his draft status, he's not going to be able to stay.
He's not going to stay.
He's not going to be able to stay at Texas unless he at least looks good. But if he looks good, this is very important for him to look, I think, good in the college football playoff for his future wherever he goes next, his future draft status. And there's also pressure from Texas. You go out there and lose to Clemson, you are going to be a wailing embarrassment. You're going to be everybody's going to scapegoat you. There's a lot of pressure. I'm going to say Will Howard, though. Not because I think Will Howard's an NFL quarterback. I don't think anybody thinks that. I think Will Howard's a very bad quarterback. I've been banging the table on Will Howard being trashed the whole season and Ohio State not going to be able to win a national championship because of him, despite having, I think, the best defense in the country. So has nothing to do. I think Ohio State's a fan base that's ready to combust. They're a fan base that feels they're going to start sending death threats to their players if they don't start winning national championships.
I would be too. You have everything in the world in terms of resources. You have a cakewalk of a schedule. You play Oregon once, and that's really damn it. You got everything right, and you're just recycling quarterbacks.
And listen, I 100% agree with you. I don't think that's on Will Howard. It's not Will Howard's fault that he was brought into a situation he was never prepared for. He was never the guy to be the quarterback of Ohio State. Frankly, the guy that would have been much better is out there in Syracuse, Kyle McCord. But there were also Cam Ward. There were a lot of transfer quarterbacks.
Let's go through the transfer quarterbacks. Cam Ward is infinitely better. His replacement is infinitely better.
Listen, I don't have them off the top of my head.
Rashada is better.
I don't know about that, but regardless, listen, I think there's plenty. The point is Ohio State could have had their pick of their leader and they chose Will Howard. And that's not Will Howard's fault because Will Howard, like I said, was not built, but regardless, he's in this situation now and they are going to blame one. They're going to blame Ryan Day. And that might be the only thing that might be his protection barrier but they're also going to blame the quarterback. And then when you're the quarterback at Ohio State, that's a different position. When you're the head coach it's a different position. And when you haven't won a national championship in a decade, while your biggest rival just beat you 4 years in a row and has a national championship, that place is ready to combust. And you got Tennessee, you got them at home. We know Ryan Day is going to be feeling the pressure. Those boos are going to be raining down. They may be raining down on Ryan Day, but they're going to be raining down on Will Howard every time they go 3 and out. And that pressure going into that game, good luck. Good luck if you start to struggle. And that's not an easy task against Tennessee's defense.
The good news is the guy opposite of him sucks too. Nico sucks. I think Howard's probably a better quarterback, and that's saying something. Now, you could argue that, and maybe I'm being a little silly, but Nico's awful. Nico's awful, and this Ohio State defense is not going to be a cakewalk for Tennessee. I think, in terms of pressure, Nico probably doesn't have much at all because, I guess Tennessee fans expect to win this game and probably expect to make a somewhat of a deep run, but I think that's mainly because they're delusional. I think even keel Tennessee fans would tell you that, this is a good season, even if we lose to Ohio State. Good thing for Howard is he's playing across a Make-A-Wish quarterback.
See, I disagree on Nico. And I do think Nico has definitely been underwhelming after kind of that big start against crappy opponents. But I thought he finished the year much stronger. I thought he showed flashes at the end of the year. And
there are some terrible quarterbacks in this play.
No, I know.
Like, they're all bad. Who's the best quarterback? We'll do that next. Let's do that next.
Aaron Murray, I'll tell you this. He put out his list for the best quarterbacks in this playoffs. You know who number 2 was? Will Howard. So that's
that's crazy.
And listen, that's crazy. Like, I don't agree with that at all. He also had Riley Leonard at 10. So, I do not agree with this list at all. I'm just saying the fact that you could even have a guy that has played the quarterback position, put Will Howard at number 2, shows you the list of quarterbacks in this playoffs is very bad. And that's why I don't think you have a dominant team, because there isn't like a dominant quarterback. But I'll say this about Nico, and he's the wild card for Tennessee, because there's undoubtedly been a level of potential that hasn't been reached this season. But there's also no question that they do have athletes on the outside that could create separation. And if he can just because their defense is pretty good. I don't think it's not Ohio State's, but it's good enough against some of these teams that can keep them in the game. If he can make a couple of big plays against Ohio State's defense, which they are there to be had, because he's going to have some time. He's got the arm. He's got the receivers. He's just got to connect on some of these balls, which he can do.
That's the thing that's been missing.
It's been missing. But listen, it can happen. I'm a firm believer that it can happen. He has enough talent.
I have serious doubt that if it hasn't happened up to this point, it's not going to happen.
Well, it has happened. It just hasn't happened
against Ohio.
It just hasn't happened consistently.
Georgia's quarterback situation is incredibly intriguing too. And you want to talk about pressure. It's a different kind of pressure. Like I was saying, you can interpret pressure in a bunch of different ways. You'd be foolish if you don't think he's under at least a little bit of pressure, because they expect, I don't care that, I'm not a Georgia fan, but Georgia fans don't care that Carson Beck might or might not play. They still expect to make a run at a title.
Well, even beside, just throw the fact that this is obviously you're getting thrown in there and you haven't even played a full game of football, over your career at the University of Georgia. What about next year? So, we talk about Quinn Ewers and his NFL draft status. Well, Stockton's battling for his chance to prove that, hey, this is my job next year, whether Carson Beck wants to come back or not. Because you go out there and win a national.
Carson Beck had just kissed his job goodbye.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
It's Jalen Hurts and Tua.
You go out there and win a national championship.
I'd say the opportunity is much greater than the actual pressure of the situation.
But with that opportunity becomes pressure.
I guess that's true.
So and listen, he wants to stop. He's got NFL dreams too. It doesn't just stop here. And the first step is taking this job and being the starting quarterback at the University of Georgia. He's been blessed with that opportunity, and he doesn't want to waste that.